I want to discuss that you both bring up is the budget hours. That's just so stressful for new staffs. Like the managers or seniors will give staffs like, oh, these assignments or this tax return, the budget about 4 to 5 hours, or for example, cash audit for 2 hours. And then like new staff, we pretty much blow up the budget. And then it's just so nervous, like, oh my gosh, we went over it. And then people say that it's okay, don't worry, you are new. But then you receive a comment during the review saying that it takes too long for you to finish it. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? As a senior manager, what would you say about budget hours for new staff, or like for even for new seniors when they just start in this career? Because that's something that we as young or new always have headache about.
Right. And maybe I'll take this first, since, I don't think Krystal has they don't even have to do their time. That's like amazing.
That was, yes, that was a nice, that was a nice one.
Freedom.
Switch. Yes.
Yes. So I'll take this one. So on one hand, the budget is very important because we schedule towards it, right? Especially in busy season. What we get in the scheduling system is based on the budget, maybe plus 10%. Okay, so it's important because if we don't budget enough and we're asking you to work 50 hours a week, that automatically puts you in a bind, right? But it's also not a value statement on you, and we need to stop measuring ourselves and how we're doing against the budget. So it's a tool that we can use to measure progress. And like I said, facilitate when you should communicate, but we need to stop being hung up on it. And that's really hard to get through when you first start. I know that was very hard for me because it's one of the only points of data that you have seen in your career when you're new, versus when you have a lot of years of experience, you realize there's other measurements that are used. And so first and foremost, to measure how you're doing, I say do not look at the budget, look at how effective you are at your work. So are you getting good points back to you, like you did a great job on this, it was correct, or you were able to make your own corrections? That's a better indicator of how you're doing. So I think effectiveness is more important in your career in the early days than efficiency, right? You will still get the efficiency comments, like to grow and develop, you need to be more efficient, right? That is important on the grand scheme of things because, deadlines pretty much, right? But everything's on a continuum scale, right? So if I have 2 associates and one can get them cash very high quality in 2 hours, but the other one takes 8 hours, but it's high quality, I'll take the 2-hour person first, right? They'll get more work because they can do more in a day. But if I have a person that can do cash in 8 hours and do it well, and a person that can do it in 4 hours and they do not do it well, and I have to spend 4 more hours to fix it, I'm going to take the person with 8, right? So I feel like having that example is helpful in how much weight you should give it, which I think emotionally you should not give it any. That's very hard to do. It's just a measurement of, are you learning? And it's something we can use to measure progress, but it's not on how good of an accountant you are or anything like that. So I think we need to give ourselves some grace and let go of the budget if it's being too emotional for you, right? And come back to it as a measurement tool when you can emotionally handle it. Because I think, sometimes it's just too hard. We cause way more stress than it's worth.
When is a good time that you can lean a little bit forward to efficiency?
I think really once you have that first year, once you kind of get through your first year, your first busy season, really, then you can try to focus on being more efficient. By that time, you should have seen tested cache so many times. So, I think it's really that first busy season, stretching a little bit maybe to the first year. You've kind of seen you've seen at that point a full cycle. And I think that's really when you can focus on trying to be more efficient. And I can remember I am someone that when I started with, I left school, I finished school, started with work, I wanted everything to be an A. I wanted to turn everything in and for it to be an A. And I think, doing something to that level, then you're not always the fastest, right? Because you're double checking your work, you're referencing the prior work paper to make sure you didn't miss anything, that first year, that first busy season. So you want it to be perfect. And so I know I struggled with that because I like things to be an A. So, coming from that school, kind of, off of school, and you're studying for CPA exam, you're trying to do a good job there. Like, you have all these things where you're still kind of in that mindset. And so, it can be hard. I know I struggled definitely with, trying to do it perfectly, and be very thorough and detailed, and also keep the budget in mind. And I think they're just, touching on the communicating again. If you kind of have your eye on the budget and don't stress about it, just communicate. And like Danielle said, they'll probably say, it's fine. It's the first time you're doing it. It's the second time you've ever done cash. First time with this client. It's fine. Don't worry about the budget. But then you probably do get the comment, like she's saying, in the, let's, okay, good job. You did great. Now let's focus on, efficiency for the next going forward. So Danielle, I don't know if you have any different thoughts on timing of when you should really kind of start to focus on that a little more.
I think that if you are starting at entry level, you should definitely take that first year and just try to learn as much as you can and seek to understand. Like, I have this thing where I say, like, be curious and just seek to understand. That should be your goal. If you get too hung up on the budget, you're going to miss all the learning opportunities that you have, right? You need to focus on understanding the concepts. And frankly, some people have a better understanding right out of college than others. So I think that and also everybody has a different strengths and weaknesses in different areas. Maybe they just innately understand certain sections better than others. And we, in that first year, need you to get exposed to everything. And you need to really seek to understand that, not just to get to the next thing, right? So sometimes, like, for example, maybe you don't want to do a PBC list again. It's just rolling it, right? But that's like your client is going to be in that deliverable like for hours a day for that. Like, if you misspell stuff, the client's going to be like, oh, you want me to get the bank statements, but you can't spell this right? So like, I think that don't try to rush, just try to understand why am I doing this? What is it being used for? How can I get really good at it? And then once you have the effectiveness done, you are effective at it. Like, I turn it in, it's good. My senior or my manager doesn't have to do a lot of work to fix it. Like, get there first, and then you can start working on efficiency of, okay, I took A, B, C, D, E, F to get it done. Maybe there's a faster way to go from A to F, right? Sitting back and thinking, how did I do that? Maybe one of the things you can do for efficiency is organize yourself first, rather than jump right in and then organize yourself later. Like, that was something I realized helped me a lot, is like sit down and organize the documents first. So yeah, step one, I don't think there's a time frame. It's going to take everybody a little bit of different times, but definitely take that first year to just be curious and understand as much as you can. After all, I think it's your career, and you understanding the the work is what's going to get you to that next level and what's going to give you value in the market overall, right? You getting fast at it is great, but that's not the first step.
I still remember the first training with CVs. We say that do not eat your time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is so common. At the beginning, I didn't recognize that it could be an issue. But then the more I work in public, I recognize that actually it's not very new to people who work in public, because a lot of us actually eat our time just in be able to look like efficient. We did talk about try to be curious, try to learn as much as you can, but a lot of time you cannot avoid eating your time. And how can you minimize that even when you have more experience? Like, that's the thing, like even now when you have more experience, you think that I'm supposed to finish this one in 3 hours, but then it takes me 5 hours. I'm going to eat 2 hours because it make me look bad that I have experience. I'm supposed to be efficient, but I'm not efficient. So what would you do in that case?
I do not think you should eat your time. One, your bonus is based on your billable hours. So you're literally saying, please pay me less, right? I think that one, that's the first point. Two, if you're on the job next year and you eat your time, you're going to have less budgeted hours because they're going to think you did it faster. You don't need more time, right? I think also we sometimes miss the point of you might take longer in one area, but less time in another area, and that's going to offset it overall. And you're just looking too micro. I think that I can't speak for every public accounting firm. There's probably pressures out there. You're not in trouble for going over budget. You're not in trouble for getting a bad realization, right? So I just don't see what benefit it is to you to not record your hours. Now, I mean, I would, at the beginning of my career, I would sometimes read like the rev rec guide for software when I knew I had a client coming up. But I typically did that. This was after I was done studying for my CPA, but I typically did that. Like I'd go to the gym on the treadmill and I'd walk and do that. I didn't bill that, but if I was in the office, I probably would have billed it to admin, or maybe the job, I would talk to the manager, hey, I feel like I need to research this for this engagement. But I don't think we should be fearful of it because it is what it is, right? It's not, we're trying to control something that isn't really in our control. It took what it took. Krystal, did you ever feel pressured to eat your time when you were in public accounting?
Not from outside pressure. I think when I felt like I was spending too much time on it because I was kind of, figuring it out, or just not being, I was like, having to fit, I was struggling with something. Sometimes I'd feel like, well, how long did I really take to do that? What should I really put down? Should I put down every minute I've been sitting here? What have I been doing? So I think just internally kind of struggled with some of that a little bit. And again, that's, probably trying to just get that A, be perfect, do everything that's asked. But I mean, you run out of time, right? Meaning like you can only work so many hours. So if you're eating your time and you want to show a certain amount of work done, I mean, the math doesn't work, right? Like how much can you work? And then if you're eating some of it, how much are you really working? So, I mean, I definitely agree. You should not be eating your time. You should, again, this is an area you should be communicating. Danielle, that's great. Even if early in your career, like as an associate, if you would ask a manager about, you were researching, you wanted to read guidance. I don't know that I would have even thought to ask a manager to bill that to a client unless I was physically in field work, wanting to read the guidance right there while I was, working on something. If it was like before we started or just kind of, I was thinking about it, trying to figure something out, I would not. That's great. I think that's great that you would have even have thought to do that. I would have just considered that like, admin self-improvement kind of, work, I think. But
we're talking about the time, the budget, and then the eating time. But Krystal, you in private, you're not in public, so you don't have to deal with that. But you do have to work overtime when you have year end or month end, right? So what struggle you have in private accounting talking about the hours?
Really in industry, not really. I mean, we work when we need to work a little more during month end, during year end. But really outside of that, and especially with the company I work with, it has historically been a very balanced work-life balance, very reasonable amount of hours. Even during month end and year end, it's really not too bad, and not as bad as it could be for my team, and for most of the time for myself as well. So there's not really any pressure around there in the hours. I think once COVID and also being a mother has changed that a little bit, in that during COVID I did have a period of time where my young child was home with me while I was working, and it was just the two of us. So I definitely struggled with trying to kind of do, they'll call it a second shift, or where I would get back online after bedtime, work late into the night, because the day was just hard to get everything done. So I do struggle. COVID is really, I've had to kind of rebalance and cut out some of that late night working. It just, you can only do it for so long. It kind of catches up to you. My team wasn't doing that though. That was really just me and my specific situation. During just this change with COVID and working from home more, and having my daughter home with me she was home for 6 months with me full time she was 2.5 to 3. So it's a very hard age to try to work and also have, your child at your home, with you. So at the same time, so so a little bit of, and that was really pressure I put on myself, that wasn't really coming from anywhere else. So, but yeah, I've definitely had to, reset some boundaries and get out of that habit. It's just not maintainable. But I know a lot of working parents do it. A lot of working parents, they'll stop working a little earlier, and then they pick things back up after kids go to bed. It's, pretty common way that people try to balance both responsibilities.
So do you still work 40 hours per week, or you work more than that?
I would say my team and myself, we can work about 40. I probably work more than that, a little more than that on average. And then during month end, we all work a little bit more, maybe. So our month end, we close within 4 business days. So it's a very short number of days. So maybe on day 1 and 2 are the heaviest for my team. And then day 3 and 4, we're finalizing, making any final adjustments. So we can work a little bit later those 4 days, but not to anything too late. Maybe like 6 or 7, like 7 o'clock at night. So not anything like the hours we work sometimes in public accounting or during busy season. Definitely less than that. So I think my team mostly works 40 hours a week, and then maybe 45 on average during month end or during the first few weeks of January, which January is a pretty heavy month for us with all of our audit requirements and tax deadlines too.
I know that a lot of people, they want to work in public accounting in early career, and then move to private as you do right now. Mm-hmm. because of the timing, because of the hours, and you don't have to work like during busy seasons. So Danielle, why do you still stay in public for 14 years?
Yeah, I really wanted to get to that manager level, which, I've been a manager now for a long time, but I was really like not thinking about leaving until I got that manager. And that's when I had my daughter, is the first year I was a manager. And so there was a lot of just adjustment, and it wasn't a very good time for changing. I really like everybody that I work with, and I like my leadership. And after at the manager level, I have so much flexibility, right? So, I mean, I work permanently remote. So with having a 5-year-old, I'm able to like be there when she's gets home from school and do activities with her. And I don't know. I like my career. I love my team. I like teaching them. I like my clients. And so I've just never had the motivation to go out there. But I do think, that, I'm thinking about becoming a shareholder and what are those steps to take. And am I a little nervous about the risk that you assume? Yes, but it seems like the logical next step, right? So I guess I don't really know the answer, but I think that's probably why a lot of people stay in public accounting, because they just didn't go out. That's what my uncle told me too.
We have you and in public, and then we have Krystal in private. I'm just curious if you both can share your typical day.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So for me personally, I start my day, I have to get my kids to daycare school. So at this season of my life, I do feel like I start my day a little bit later. I'm also almost 100% remote. I do go into the office as needed occasionally. Right now, they're asking us to go in once a month, very that's not a big requirement at all. Just that we are there and we kind of see each other face to face, once a month is our current ask. So very flexible. So I am happy at this point. I feel like it's a successful start to the day if I am back home and starting work by 9, which, another season of life, I hope to start a little earlier, but that's just what it is right now with the little ones in the morning. And then it really just depends on the time of the month. So if it's month end, I'm getting back and I'm starting, my team has already started preparing, all the journal entries that we do for month end. So I'll have a lot of review to do. At this stage, I'm reviewing a lot of work that my team is doing, whether that's journal entries during month end or reconciliations. I usually have a handful of meetings, whether that's with my boss or just different topics or issues, projects that are going on within the company and within the group. So it really does vary. But, we have our month end close, a normal cycle, our month end close, focus on that for about a week. And then we shift to just other reporting, account reconciliations, other meetings, other project work. And then, we start the cycle all over and we get ready for the next month end. The auditors, we have different touch points through the year when they start their audit work. So, just getting them whatever they need. And, it's a lot of, so that's really a typical day. So I start my day. Sometimes I take a good lunch break. Sometimes, a lot of times I don't. And I just kind of, work through lunch, grab lunch and eat it while I'm working. The kids get home. My husband does pick up. The kids get home about 4. I say hi to them. And then hopefully my goal is to say hi. They, usually run in excited to see me, and then try to work a little bit more before I stop for dinner, bedtime, bath. That stretches. It gets a little messy during month end because I work a little bit later on those nights. Occasionally now, my current schedule, I do work. Sometimes I can, if there's something that has to get done for month end, I'll get back on after bedtime. But lately I have not been working after bedtime, which is nice to get a little more sleep. I don't know if that answers, that's sort of a very general outline of, what the workload and day can be like. But I don't know, Danielle, do you want to share your average day?
Yeah. Well, so this is going to be for this season. It definitely changes. I can look back on my 14 years and it's been a lot different. But for right now, well, what I kind of do is, so I'm a manager, and that means I have a lot of teams going at once. So I typically plan my week out, and I try to, before the week starts, move calls and try to batch meetings on like one day. Or I mean, typically sometimes if I have a lot of teams going, I can have calls like every day, all day. And sometimes I just have to start rearranging them or being like, can we hop on a call together with, so every week I look at that. And I try to like have a calls day or a meeting day, because otherwise I'm just on the phone every day, all day. And I do actually have to review things. So right now I wake up at 6. I help my daughter get ready. We eat breakfast together. I do not check my email. I do not open my computer. I really try to be intentional with that time to be present. Like, so I don't have my work email on my phone. I have 2 phones because I can't trust myself to not look. But I actually need to maybe leave my phone away because I'm not always that good at it. But this practice has really changed my mornings to not feel rushed. So I just try to be intentional, whatever. And then she is, my husband drives her to school. And so then I eat breakfast or work out or like read. And then I will go upstairs, and that's when my office hours starts. So basically how I've structured my day is that when I'm in the office, I'm working. And when I leave my office, I am not working. So occasionally there has to be some exceptions to that. Like if a client's raising money or something, then yeah, I need to like kind of be monitoring. But that's the exception, not the rule. There's very rare weekends where I need to be working anymore. And I know it when I need to be, like it's because a deadline's coming and I need to be doing that. So typically my work day, I start off not opening my email because I'm usually starting pretty early because my daughter goes to school early. She's off like at 7:05. And since my husband takes her, I'm like, have the house to myself, I guess. So, and I have no commute, right? So I get my workout in, and then I'm like, sometimes I'm logging in at 7:30, 7:45, and I don't open my email yet. And I pick a detailed review topic to do. Like if I need to review something, perform something, that's when I do it, is first thing in the morning. And then typically I just keep going down my list until calls come. And then I'm on calls and I'm checking in with my teams and making sure that I have given them what they need. So a lot of times with team meetings and stuff, I ask people to, hey, share your screen, show me what you're working on, or if I can review in the moment. I try to do that during the calls. But yeah, I have as a manager in public accounting, I have a lot of jobs going on all the time at once. So I don't know if that answers the whole question, but that's typically my day for work.
So how many hours you work during non-busy season and how many hours for busy season?
So I'm actually part-time right now. I'm 90%. But as a manager, I'm not only looking at hours, I'm also looking at revenue under management and how much clients I have. So I've kind of negotiated to have a certain level of clients, and I know when they go during the year, I map that out, and I'm trying to manage that based on their time frame. But typically I work like 36 hours a week, and during a deadline, I might need to work more than that to get it out, depending on if my plans have worked out or not, right? I never planned to work more because I am part-time. So I've, changed my schedule to do that. But for full-time senior managers, they probably work 45 hours a week, 50 in busy season, but then there'll definitely be weeks that they work maybe a little less, or it just depends on seasonality and stuff. And also, I think by the time you're a manager, you know how much you want to work. And we have some managers in our office that continually do 55 hours during busy season, and we have some that do not. So I think, and the ones that are like getting after it and working those hours, like they have way more revenue under management. I'm sure their compensation reflects that. And but they know themselves by that time. So they know what they need to do. When you're a senior, when you're below manager, your performance is very dictated on billable hours because you're still building your career and learning how to do all the tasks. And so that's much more, every billable hour counts there, right? So I think that typically you're working 40 hours. Some people work 45 more consistently, and then it's like 55 in busy season.